Today I'm going to talk about properly setting up your suspension, making adjustments, and how to set your sag. I'll talk about how to adjust your compression dampening as well as your rebound dampening. Let's start by getting the bike out. Suspension adjustments are fairly standard across most bikes. However, there might be some slight differences from my bike to yours. The figures that I'll mention in this video are specific to my bike, which is a 2002 KX250. And throughout the video, I'm going to share some of the factory settings for my bike. So at any time, you can return your bike to the suggested settings and fine tune from there. Don't be afraid to make changes because you can always reset your bike back to those factory settings fairly easily. The easiest changes that you can make to your bike are compression dampening, rebound dampening, and some spring adjustments. On my bike, you can also make air pressure adjustments in the front forks. In addition, I can adjust the fork oil level as well as the positioning of the fork clamps. However, in this video, I'm not going to be making those adjustments. We'll start with the fork tube adjustments. Just remember that every adjustment that you do on one side must be made on the opposite side as well. So any changes that you make on the left fork, you have to also make to the right fork. Here located at the top of the fork tube, you have two of the adjustments that I mentioned. Here in the center is the adjustment for the rebound dampening. This screw here is the adjustment for the air pressure. So let's go ahead and start by adjusting the rebound dampening on the front forks. So this setting changes how fast the shock will rebound after it's compressed. This adjustment has 18 positions or clicks. Fully turned in clockwise is the hardest setting, and 18 clicks out from that or counterclockwise is the softest setting. The factory setting for my bike, for my KX250, rebound dampening is 10 clicks out from fully seated. So this means I'll first turn the adjuster clockwise until you feel some resistance and it's fully seated. Then I'll back out the adjuster counterclockwise 10 clicks. So first I'm going to turn this all the way in. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it out 10 clicks. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're going to do the same on the other side. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so the rebound dampening is set to the factory settings. Located at the bottom of the fork is the adjustment for the compression dampening. Now I have a rubber dust cover in here that's covering up that adjuster, which looks very similar to the one up top. So you'll just have to remove that rubber dust cover to gain access to that adjuster. I removed the dust covers from the bottom side of the forks so I can gain access to the adjustments for the compression settings. Now you can see that adjuster with the dust cover removed. Now this setting changes how fast the shock will compress. The compression dampening has 18 positions or clicks, just like the rebound dampening, and can be adjusted with a small flathead screwdriver as well. Fully turned in clockwise is the hardest setting, and 18 clicks out or counterclockwise is the softest. The factory setting for my KX250 is 9 clicks. So this means First, I'm going to turn the adjuster clockwise all the way in until I feel slight resistance and it's not clicking anymore, and then I'll back out the adjuster counterclockwise 9 clicks. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so that's all the way in. Now I'm going to take it out 9 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you don't want to use a screwdriver much bigger than this because you don't want to put too much torque on these adjusters, and really you don't need it. Something this small does the job just fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and make the same adjustment on the other side. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're all set. Now I'm going to put my dust caps back on. Now I'm going to start with adjusting the rear rebound dampening. In case you're wondering why the rear rebound dampening adjustments are on the bottom of the shock and on the front forks, it's on the top. The reason is the front forks are inverted. Those shocks are upside down. So that's why the adjustments are opposite. In the front, you have your compression at the bottom and the rebound at the top. In the rear, you have your compression at the top and the rebound at the bottom. So first I'm going to start with adjusting the rebound dampening on the rear shock. Okay, so here's the adjuster in the center of the bottom of the rear shock. A fully turned in clockwise would be the hardest setting, same as the other adjustments. And 20 clicks out or counterclockwise is the softest setting. The factory settings for this bike, for the KX250, is 12 clicks out. So this means first I'm going to turn the adjuster clockwise all the way in until I feel that slight resistance and it stops clicking. And then I'm going to back out the adjuster counterclockwise 12 clicks. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now I'm going to back it out 12 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here we go. Okay, now that the rebound dampening on the rear shock has been adjusted, we're going to go ahead and adjust the compression dampening. Now there's two adjustments. You have slow speed dampening and high speed dampening. The low speed dampening can be found at the center of the bolt at the top of the rear shock and can be adjusted with a screwdriver. This adjustment has 20 clicks. Fully turned in will be the hardest setting and 20 clicks out would be the softest. The factory setting for this bike is 11 clicks. So that means first I'm going to turn the adjuster all the way in and then I'm going to back it out 11 clicks. Now I'm going to back it out 11 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Next, I'm going to set the high-speed compression dampening. This can be found in the same position. On my bike, it's a 17 millimeter anodized aluminum nut. Your size may be different depending on your bike, but for my bike, it's a 17 millimeter. Now, unlike the other adjustments, this one does not have a clicker. The range is far smaller. This adjustment, fully relaxed, which is turned fully counterclockwise, is only 3.5 turns. So we're going to start by fully seating the adjustment. Okay, right there it stopped. The factory setting for this bike is to turn it out 2.25 turns. So I'm going to place this ratchet in a position and remember where it's sitting. So right there. Now I'm going to turn this out 2 1/4 turns. Half. 1. 1.5. 2. 2.25. So now my high-speed dampening is set. Now you can change out the springs as well in your front forks to have a harder or softer feel, but they're not as easily adjusted as the settings, which can just be done with a small screwdriver. However, you can make adjustments to your rear spring fairly easily. That's what we'll talk about next. Your rear spring has a preload that can be adjusted based on the rider's weight. This is called adjusting the sag. Now, I'll cover the procedure for properly setting up your rear spring preload and sag. They make lots of fancy tools to measure your sag. I'm going to show you how to do it with a tape measure. In order to set the sag on your bike, the first thing you're going to have to do is take some measurements. I'm going to start to prepare the bike now in order to take the most accurate measurements. So what I'm going to do is take a tape measure, measure from my swing arm nut to the center of my axle. It's 23.5 inches. That's going to be my axis. So when I'm measuring my sag, I'm going to measure from the rear axle up to a point that I mark on either my fender or the side of my plastics. That's that same distance from the swing arm pivot point. So 23.5 inches. So is right where the Y and E meet here on my graphics. So I'm going to take a piece of tape and I'm going to mark that. I'm going to get a Sharpie and put a mark on there, so I'm using the same reference point for all of my measurements. And for the first measurement, you want to have your bike up on a lift with the tires off the ground. Now, this is called zero sag or free sag. Now I'm going to take a measurement from the center of my axle up to the mark that I made on the fender. (23.5 inches). I'm going to write that down on a piece of paper. I have this written down. 23.5 inches is my free sag. Now I don't know if you remember, but that was the same measurement that I got from here to here, the length of the fork, and from here to here, and from there to there. Perfect triangle. The next thing you want to do is remove the bike from the stand so the bike is supporting its own weight. Now I lowered my jack underneath the bike. When I take this measurement, I'm going to stand the bike up straight. Okay, so the bike is supporting its own weight. I'm going to take another measurement in the center of the axle to that same mark. I've got 22 3/4 inches. So now I'm going to record that measurement. If I take my first measurement of 23.5 inches and then I subtract my second measurement when the bike was supporting its own weight of 22.75 inches, now that will give me my static sag. And when I subtract those two numbers, that gives me 0.75 inches. Now if I convert that to millimeters, that's 19 millimeters, which is a little on the hard side. The spring needs to be a little bit softer. The sag really should be somewhere between 30 to 50 millimeters. I think right around 40 being the sweet spot. So now I have the bike leaning up against the wall, and to get proper race sag measurements, you really should be wearing all of your riding gear, including your helmet, because it's going to add a little bit more weight. For purposes of this video, I'm not going to put all my gear on, but I'm going to show you how to take the measurement. Okay, so I'm going to get on the bike. In preparation for measuring the race sag, I'm going to balance with my finger here. You can use a wall if you have a wall or something like that. So I'm just going to use my fingers, but I am putting my full weight on the bike. Now I'm going to stand up in my riding position with my knees tight. Now my lovely wife is going to take the measurement. Okay, so my wife did a great job helping me out, and she took a measurement, and the measurement with my weight on the bike was 20 3/8 inches. Now what I want to do next is subtract that 20 3/8 inches from my initial measurement of 23.5, which was the free sag point. So I went ahead and I made the conversion over to millimeters, and it came in just under 80 millimeters. It was 79 point something. So I used 80 millimeters as my sag number. Now that is a little stiff, which is right in line with the measurement that I got for the static sag point. So what that means is I'm going to have to loosen up my preload on my shock just a little bit. So I'll show you how to do that next. So this is toward the top of the rear shock, and you'll see that there's two nuts. There's a lock nut on top and then the adjustment nut on the bottom. So first thing you want to do is loosen up that top nut, and then once that's loose, then you could start adjusting your preload either up or down. Now it's very difficult to make those adjustments from here. You have to remove the seat, your plastics, your silencer, airbox, and the rear subframe, which will give you easy access to make those adjustments. All the adjustments have been made on the rear spring, and I've got it in range where I think will be a good starting point before I need to make any other adjustments after I ride it a little bit. My final measurements came out to be 38 millimeters of static sag and 99 millimeters of race sag. And typically, depending on your bike, if it's a bike this size, this is a 250, you want to be right around that 100 millimeter mark. Now the only thing left to do is to take it to the track, give it a ride, and see how it feels, and make any fine-tuning adjustments that we need to while we're at the track.